The bullet ant gloves ritual. The Satirma Indians who live deep in the Amazon jungles of Brazil where they still practice brutal rituals to this day. Several times a year, boys as young as 12 have to go through an extremely painful initiation if they ever want to become respected as adults. These kids have to wear painful gloves on both of their hands that have been filled with bullet ants. The bullet ants sting like a wasp. It is extremely painful that it feels like you are getting shot, hence the name. There is a study measuring the sting and it's said to be 30 times worse than that of the bee. The gloves are made with small holes that will keep the ants fixed in place with their stingers pointing towards the skin. Once the gloves are on, there is no escaping the hundreds of venomous strings from them. The young men wear the gloves 20 times for 10 minutes, performing a dance while those angry insects sting them. The next horrifying tribal ritual that is still practiced is called land diving or Nagal ritual, which translates into land diving. This is the Nagal tribe's way of becoming a man. It is about as dangerous as it may sound. It is definitely way more dangerous than the ant gloves I mentioned before. For this ritual, boys are picked as young as 8 years old and they have to jump off of a gigantic tower, which maybe doesn't sound so bad yet, but the problem is that the only thing keeping them from splattering on the ground is 2 jungle vines wrapped around their ankles. The purpose of this ritual is to show their courage to the tribe. When a child's turn to jump comes, they are supposed to perform a speech that would summarize who they are and how they view the world. Pretty much their last words. This dramatic moment is watched by all of their family, praying that the jungle vines they picked out are moist enough to support their body without snapping. If the vine is too dry, will instantly snap along with their neck. Unfortunately, jumping once isn't enough. You have to jump every year. The towers are tall, around 70 feet. The first jump will start from 20 feet and then every year jump 5 foot higher than the previous year. As you may have guessed, death and injuries are quite common with this ritual. Historians believe that the Mayans were first introduced to human sacrifice by the Toltecs. Human sacrifice had long been a part of the Toltec religion. The sacrifices were performed by a priest called a Nakam. The Nakam was in charge of cutting out the hearts of the victims. He did this while he was entirely dressed in black. The Nakam's assistants were elderly subordinates called Cheks. Cheks were named after the god of rain. It was their job to hold the victims down during the sacrifice. Slaves, criminals, bastards, orphans, and children made up the bulk of the sacrificial victims. Children were desired because of their innocence and would sometimes be abducted or purchased from neighboring cities. The purchase price was paid in red beans. Sacrificial victim was painted blue. Next, the victim was led to the summit of the pyramid and laid over a stone altar. Then, with his arms and legs firmly held by the Cheks, the Nakam cut open the chest and tore out his heart. This was usually done with an obsidian or flint knife. Next, the heart was handed to the high priest, and the body was thrown down the temple stairs. Other methods of sacrifice included drowning, beating, mutilation, and arrow sacrifices. In the arrow sacrifice, the victim was painted blue and tied to a stake while dancers took turns trying to pierce the victim's heart.